and welcome to Trek Central Weekly. I'm your host, Don Paris, and this week we are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 9, Vox. It was a very interesting episode. We'll get into all of it in this next hour-long stream, but with me to talk about this episode, we have some great co-hosts. So first, Favre, Text Trek, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be here.
Very nice. And we also have Nick, Peace. How are you doing this week?
Doing great.
Very nice. And Sohail, Starfleet Sohail, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. A bunch of my younger friends got assimilated and are acting really weird, but other than that, everything's fine.
Oh my god, wait, that should include me, but I am terrified of transporters, even though I'm in a transporter right now because I don't change my background. So yeah, and we have we have our general audience members in the live chat. We also have a poll open of your favorite aspect of this episode, so make sure to vote. You can also super chat to put your questions forward to us and we'll see it because we have a lot to talk about. So how much we can actually see in chat will be determined. But first off, Favre, what did you think of this episode? Just general vibes of how this episode went for you.
I was a little mixed on this episode. It had like some really great moments though that just like, I think 99% of hardcore Trek fans will just, eat up and love and enjoy it. Has a lot of fan service, but some of that is enjoyable and good. And I'm not immune to that either. I have my heart swell and like grow 10 sizes like the Grinch, and how the Grinch stole Christmas when like he has like the change of heart moment. So for me, that was when I heard Majel Barrett come through on the speakers on the Enterprise D. It's like, oh, even all this corny nostalgia. It's like, yeah, like I have to admit, it feels really damn good. That being said, I did have some problems with like the themes that could be drawn out of the plot, out of the story. Some of the conclusions we might draw, like, I guess all the youngsters are the problem.
Infected by a mind virus. Yeah.
They're vulnerable to these bad influences. So the old timers need to come set things right. So I have issues with that, but.
Yes, it was definitely interesting seeing, like, in comments to our video review being like, the Borg is an analogy to wokeness. How great. It's like, please no.
Yeah.
I don't want... And one of the writers has come out to say, yeah, there was no intention there, but you wrote it, and the fact that no one saw that kind of speaks to maybe... there is that's a positive reason to have diverse writers groups, is to see these different perspectives on what you're writing, intended or not.
Absolutely.
And just be like, yeah, maybe this isn't the best message to send. So Hill, what are you going to say?
I was just going to give them a little bit of credit when they were writing it and breaking it. The whole like this whole like kind of movement was like not as big as it is right now, of like these people trying to use the woke thing against others, like claiming that it's like a bad thing or whatever. So just a little credit there, but still it's very weird that it turned out that way.
Yes, very weird. Nick, what were your general thoughts on this episode?
The story kind of, I'm a bit lost now after that last episode, but I will say my only gripe thing I think I mentioned last time I was on here is that everything is so dark. And as soon as we got on the D, holy crap, so much color I can actually see, and it made me feel a lot more positive about watching it. So that was...
And that's a fair point. They put out a lot of like kind of promotional pictures of the crew on the D, and one thing which I definitely remarked from that is how a lot of the aspects of the show have to tie together. You have to have the costuming work with the sets. We saw this with Discovery Season 3. They had to change the costuming to work with the set. And the costuming which they've done throughout the season, which works very well on the Bridge of the Titan, for example, doesn't work well on the D. It looks... A lot of those pictures which they showed look very photoshopped. And I know that they were actually photoed there. And in the episode, it also feels weird because, you have the D and it looks like it did. but then you have everyone in very dark outfits, and it doesn't really work. But
I'm okay with that though. I like that
Yeah, it worked for
wardrobe so
me.
much.
Yes.
I really want one of those jackets. I saw
Oh.
that someone is there's
There's
pre-orders
two
available now.
companies.
There's two
two
different
companies that are
companies
making
working
them.
on it.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that
One's
goes.
doing
Who's
like
cheaper? Are they both charge?
We'll
I think
see
there's
when they
one
actually
that's
go
gonna
to
be
them.
like handmade.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a company that's doing like handmade leather stuff. I'm
We
not sure,
have
but that one's gonna be
two
obviously.
super chats, which I should get to.
Ooh.
Wow.
We have Sean Kisi for £5 saying 4 minutes at the end of one episode of Picard season 3 puts the entirety of Disco and Picard season 1 and season 2 to shame. In my opinion, great to see the D and the music. Wow. I will disagree with you there because it's just the D. It's just a
Fat
ship.
one. No,
fat.
who likes the fat one?
Maybe that's just me. I grew up with Voyager. I didn't grow up with
Yes.
Next Generation. It might work very well to those who grew up with the Next Generation. But obviously, as
totally works very well
Star
for
Trek
those people.
goes, they should go towards the future and not be stuck in the past. And that is a worry I have with going back to the D. It's quite regressive. We've also talked about some of the things you can draw from the story and the plot. But yeah, I will say that the music was very good. That alteration of the TNG theme was very nice.
There's some
music this whole
generations in
season
there
is
too.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking
This
about the
week it
Next
was Freddie Wyman
Generation,
at the helm.
we also have another super chat from Valamist for £2 saying, I for one welcome
Thank
my new
you.
favourite ship,
Thank you so
the
much.
USS Pulaski. So we finally got a Pulaski reference in Star Trek Picard, and finally a reference to the Doctor that took over from Beverly in season 2. What was interesting about the Pulaski is that in, I think it's Spanish, the subtitles call the ship the USS Intrepid instead of the USS Pulaski. And it's weird that why translating it into a different language, the ship changes.
I mean, maybe at one point they had a line mentioning the Intrepid instead of Pulaski.
Yeah, it could be
an
different
earlier
draft.
edit. Yeah, they just didn't update the captions.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the Intrepid was there. The Intrepid
Yes.
shows up on that display, I believe.
A lot of ships, even the Stargazer from last season shows up on that display.
Yeah.
Whose new captain you can see in the Star Trek 7 of 9 comic that's set in between season 2 and season 3.
Yeah. That I think is also called Stargazer.
Yes, I think it is. But yes, let's go to the beginning of the episode and the cliffhanger which we left with last week. Unfortunately,
And the week before.
and the week
we
before,
had
yes.
2 episodes end with the same cliffhanger of like, oh, well, let's find out the secrets of Jack. So.
Yes. Unfortunately, as many of you know, we weren't here last week. A lot of us at Trek Central were also at Star Wars Celebration, the other Star franchise, which shouldn't be named, which I just named there. So we were very busy. But yes, we are back here to talk about this episode. I can't even really remember what happened last episode.
So,
Um,
oh, you mean
but-
the previous, not
Didn't
Yes,
the
in the
Vatic
previous
die the
episode.
last
Oh,
one?
It
that
was
was
Data-
the Vatic
the big thing was
dying
Data
episode
coming
and
back.
the Data one. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Yeah.
was so disappointed.
We had the
to see
data
her just,
resurrection for.
explode.
Yes, I was kind of disappointed with Vatic.
It was
Because,
well timed
yes.
though, right? Because we had the data resurrection in time for Easter weekend
Yes,
last
he,
week.
he came back.
And then
I didn't think of it.
is what's today? Today's April 16th.
April
Is today
16th,
the
yes.
actual? I think today might be the actual Frontier Day of when
Um,
Archer,
Yeah, I saw that
when
on
Broken
Twitter.
Bow takes place, when the NX-01
Yes.
launched.
Yes, though
Oh, wow.
Dave Glass went and
Frontier Day.
said, "Oh, it takes place on April 12th, but it is April 16th where it takes
No,
place."
I think Archer's log entry at the end of the
Yeah.
episode, he does like a Captain Star log. What I think he says April 16th.
Mm.
I might be wrong.
Anyway,
but yeah, I
we
remember.
also have another super chat
remember that.
from Bjorn00000. I wasn't a fan of this episode, but my biggest issue is that Shelby and Shaw's exits were just disservices to both characters. So yes, we do have the return of Shelby. Nick, we talked a little bit about Shelby. How did you view Shelby's reintroduction and possibly exit?
I mean, the same way as Ro, really. Like, you did me such a service of like bringing back two two awesome characters, and then they're just sorry, bye, I guess. Nice to see you. I don't know. I didn't feel great about it.
Especially when, you know, Shelby was introduced as like the expert on Borg and the head of the
Right.
Borg task force or whatever.
think she'd
And then
have an
she's just
idea
standing
something's
there
wrong.
being like, what's happening? Oh, hey, ensign's coming towards me. Let's just sit down.
Yeah.
Oh, I got shot.
What you doing?
That was disappointing. I
don't.
I really wanted her to do something.
Yeah.
I don't often like to say I would have preferred my own like headcanon over something, but like it would have been really neat if Shelby was Rose's informant or like commander or something like that, and that like she had a little bit more of a heroic part to play in this, you know, like that there were these people that were like working behind the scenes to try to figure it out. And you know, maybe I know there's only a limited bit of the producers keep saying there's such a limited amount of time and budget, so we just kind of have to like do things sometimes, and so getting a character in there maybe is better than not. But the Roe thing did work better. Like
Yes.
I just
Because
thought
we
it
had
was
a whole
little...
episode of Roe.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like an earned
exactly.
moment. Like it was a
Yeah.
good death. It was like, wow, what a great thing to do with this character. What a great story you told here. It was just like, oh,
Yeah.
here's a character that could possibly, you know, lead to something cool and fun. But nah, we ain't doing that. We just brought her back to kill her.
It would
Yeah.
have been cool if like Shelby went on a private channel and said something like, "What the hell are you doing, Jean-Luc?" And then Riker and she maybe had a moment similar to how Roe and Jean-Luc had a moment, because Riker was a big deal with Shelby on those episodes. You know, their relationship was like a big deal. She reminded him of himself, like who he used to be and like things like that. And you know, especially after seeing Elizabeth Dennehy on the Ready Room, I'm like, oh, give her more, give her more. So I'm secretly hoping that
That she
she's not dead.
survives.
And that we'll
It
see
could have
her.
been a changeling. It could have been like
Well,
maybe
no,
the Borg. The Borg
Yeah.
betrayed their changeling.
Oh, yeah, that's possible.
No, but the
conspirators
changelings
and-
always knew this was the plan. They were working towards
Yeah,
this
so you'd-
plan, so I don't think
Yeah.
she would be a changeling
Yeah, yeah.
because she
Yeah,
didn't know what was
I think
happening.
all the changelings probably like bounced out of the Starfleet ships. I think they're like, okay,
Right.
we did what we said we would do. Y'all can destroy the Federation now. Bye.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they went back to
One
the Great
thing
Link
which
or wherever.
me and Sohail talked about, because we watched this episode earlier, was it would have been nice if Shelby had like a portable force field on her, kind of like what Jack had, calling back to
Yeah.
that. And then she had more of a moment in the chair of the Enterprise F. And you could even have her like take command of the ship again, and you know, do some damage, but then the F gets destroyed instead of the Excelsior. And then
Instead of the Excelsior,
goes
yeah, and that
into
would
that
have had more
stakes.
impact. Yeah.
I think so. I agree.
talking of the Excelsior, we do have the possibility
nervous
that
about
Eleanor is on the Excelsior. He was,
Yeah.
I think he's under 25, and he was stationed on the Excelsior last season as a cadet. Terry Matalas has gone on to Twitter to say, "Oh yeah, Eleanor wasn't on the Excelsior," but
Yeah. Well,
Whatever's
that's
on
not
screen
canon though. Like you're
is what's
yeah, the
canon.
tweets are not canon.
Yes.
So I feel like
Yeah.
I haven't gone and checked what they've updated on Memory Alpha yet, which you know Memory Alpha is not canon either.
Yes.
But I if it was up to me, I'd put like the documentation as like Eleanor's fate is unknown, and he
Yes.
might have died on the Excelsior.
You
Like,
know, he
it's
might
like
have gone back to
Schrodinger's cat.
Vashti.
Like
Who knows?
yeah, Schrodinger's Eleanor. Like we can view him as alive or
He is
dead
both.
until the shows confirm it one way
He's
or
both,
the other.
he's either alive, dead, or assimilated. Those are the
Yeah.
three possibilities.
the Eleanor purgatory.
Yes.
I love Eleanor, as you know, and
Yes.
so I was very nervous about it. The tweet was reassuring, just because like, okay, that was not your intention to do it, but yeah, that's a good point. Like, where is Eleanor? Like, I kind of want an update. Like, Rafi's not even worried. I don't know. She was super worried last season.
Yeah, so I assume because they watched the Excelsior get blown up, at least John Luke would be like, well, at least Eleanor isn't on that ship, but
He does have like a strong reaction though when the Excelsior gets blown up. He's just like, oh my god, he's like, turn that off. Like I can't stand it anymore. So yeah, maybe he does think like Jesus. I think Eleanor might have just blown up.
Oh, that's a good point.
yeah, we'll see.
point.
But let's
I
go
wish
to the
she had just
beginning
said,
of this episode.
No. No.
Let's go to the beginning of this episode and the Borg reveal. So Hill, what did you think about the Borg reveal behind the red door? Was it something came out of left field? Does it make sense for you? Were there enough hints going up to that? Did you think it was going to be Par-Wraiths? Tell us about what you thought.
It was the cool. I'll use Doctor Who as a way about like describing how I feel about the Borg. In Doctor Who, there's like a perception filter where you know something's there and you just can't see it. That's what the Borg have been this whole season. They've been looming, and I've been like, are they gonna come back? I think they're gonna come back. I'm sure they're gonna come back, but we didn't really actually like for sure know until the door reveal. My favorite thing about the Borg coming back is that they brought back Alice Krige to voice the Borg Queen. When the Beverly voice starts to transition, like they do it really nicely, where like you still hear like Gates McFadden saying like Jack, come to us or whatever, and then it starts to like transition to Alice Krige's voice, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then when we were watching it, I was remarking that her voice is just so chilling and wonderful, like when she says broken glass, I can't do it the way she does, but she has such a great perfect way of saying things. Yeah, it's like,
so we do have another
I love that whole thing
from T Perfect for $5, who says, sorry Dom, but the Enterprise D fan service was much needed and anything but regressive. Terrible take. Yeah, we'll agree to disagree. Because the fact that there's only like 7 to 8 of them, I wasn't counting. Why didn't they go on to the Defiant or something? That makes more sense to deal with the Borg. I know
if this is the end of the this is the end of like the TNG crew. This is like the last time they're going to tell a story about like this cast together, as the main characters. They might show up in other stuff, but this is kind of like the last TNG story. It does make sense to use the Enterprise D, even though like I'm not a huge fan of it. In universe, it does raise a few questions, but
it raised questions about a 35-year-old ship dealing with a fleet. It raised questions about how so few crew can pilot it. All these things.
A ship that normally has 1,000 people on it, now it has half a dozen.
But it has
Father, you're gonna hate this, but the dots are running it. It's all the dots. They have dots on the D now.
You didn't say dots. You said drones.
Which are drones? What other drones does Starfleet have?
No, I hate the dots. Yeah, I do hate the dots.
He hates them. But
the only dots I like are Dippin' Dots at the movie theater.
Dippin' Dots. Dom, I just wanted to say that the thing that I liked about it, because yes, it is kind of like, it's sentimental, it's nostalgic, it's all those things for sure. But at the same time, I think something that caught my attention in the episode was when Troy said to Jack that everything in his vision has a meaning. All symbols have meanings. I hope, I don't know, but I hope in the next episode when just the presence of the D kind of does something to people, to either she's an iconic I imagine it'd be like if I were in Starfleet and the A showed up all of a sudden. I'd be like, what is the A doing here? That's a big deal. So to me, the D showing up is gonna have a similar reaction to people, and maybe it'll just create enough of a distraction to give them an advantage in something. In
we
one
also
of the
have Tim Jerome
I hope she doesn't get destroyed also.
Saying that the D is the final member of the TNG crew, and
yes,
I did point that out in my review. So yeah,
yes, you did.
It is the final crew member. But yeah, let's go back to Jack because there's a lot there. Nick, one question I want to ask you is, Counselor Troy. How did you view her in the beginning of this episode? Basically talking Jack through the things, but then seeing the Borg and then running to his parents.
It felt a little out of character. I don't know why she didn't just stay and talk to him about it. I don't know why we had to immediately run to everyone else oh my god, help. I was a little thrown on her approach to it.
Yeah, I definitely see that as well, because we had Troy and Riker in an early episode, and Troy being I tried to skip past the healing process to it being healed. And then somewhat doing the same thing with Jack, of being okay, I'll open the door for you. And a counselor's very much not doing the steps for you. A counselor's helping you make those steps. Only you can do that. So I felt kind of weird that she was like, okay, I'll open the door for you. Oh, I saw something bad. I'm going to tell your parents now. Also, again, like, counselor-patient confidentiality. Surely that's a thing. She does talk about, like, protocols, which I'm like, okay, Starfleet deals with a lot of power-driven children. You know, Charlie X, all these other things. So there are protocols we're dealing with. Oh, yeah, this kid has powers which can probably destroy us all. We probably have some protocols to deal with that. But it definitely didn't work in this scene. Farfree, what were your thoughts on, you know, Picard then goes and talks with Jack later. How did you view those scenes?
Well, the setup for Picard to go talk to Jack, I actually think that did work for Troy to be the more hawkish character who, you know, wants to take the more vigilant approach. Basically, Troy was coming at it with like the Worf approach, you know, like a random example of the child in TNG where like, oh, Deanna's like, oh, look, I'm like somehow pregnant. And then Worf is like, we should terminate the pregnancy immediately. It can't be trusted. Like, it's like he's always, you know, always one of like the most like extreme approach to everything about like security. And so if Worf had been like, okay, well, we can't trust Jack, we got to lock his ass down now and everything, it would have been like, okay, of course you're going to say that, Worf. You always say that. The fact that it came from Troy, I think it did make it have a little bit more weight and feel more serious and scary, and kind of like sold us on like that fear that she experienced when she saw the Borg cube. And so with Jean-Luc, I think that Patrick Stewart actually, you know, acted that scene very well. He's really great when he has to show like that vulnerability that the Borg bring out in Picard. They did a whole episode about it with Family when he's saying like no, you don't understand, you don't know what that was like for them to force me to almost kill everything I've ever loved. And so when Picard hears Jack kind of, you know, praising the Borg, talking about like, oh, it is perfection, you know, who would have thought all we needed was a little cybernetic authoritarianism,
which was
like, you know, that like yeah, and you know, it's like Jack has like that same ability Picard has that they commented on before. You know, he's very poetic and speaks with, you know, these flowery turns of phrase and stuff. So for Jack to have inherited that from his dad, but also inherited all of this Borg baggage, and he's like throwing it in Jean-Luc's face about like, no, like this is who I am, and you know, I'm not like afraid of it, and I want to accept it and stuff. It's like that really must sting Jean-Luc, and I thought Patrick Stewart performed really, really great in that moment.
Yeah, very much. We had another super chat from Veritas, so thank you very much. Very much helps the channel. For $20, saying if Jellicoe is still around, let's hope that either the Changelings or the Biodrones took him out. So definitely someone who's anti-Jellicoe there.
Jellicoe's gonna save the day.
Yeah, Jellicoe.
They're gonna show up on the
Janeway.
D, and it's like Jellicoe. It's going to be like Jellicoe and O'Brien and Harry Kim, and just like a bunch of like dead Borg everywhere. And they're going to be like, yeah, like we're the three real badasses. We already took care of everything, so.
Very much.
And Kim and Ensign and Kim's still an ensign. Is that what you said?
No,
he's Fleet Admiral Harry Kim.
Oh, he's Fleet Admiral Harry Kim. I love it.
Like Jellicoe is going to call Harry Kim sir in the final episode.
Very much. I did see a comment which I really liked of, I think it was from Valamist, saying I had wanted more scenes in Jack's head, like more horror, weird stuff. And I agree with that. We do have a lot of explanations of the vines, the red petals, everything about how a memory of Jack's going to Raritan 4, which is the Delton planet, which we saw in season 2, which is really cool. And just being at peace knowing that the ecosystem and everything is connected, and how that is his mind manifesting the Borg connectedness. And I think, so Hill, we talked a little bit about dreams and stuff, especially going back to the dreams that Picard had in season 1. Do you think there's any connection between the two?
Yeah, I think that the Borg connection, well, at least for me, it feels like it's reinforcing that what's going on with Jack is like because of his Borg, you know, genetics, if you will. So yeah, I like that. I like that there's so, you know, I'm rewatching season 1 and season 2 in leading up to the the finale, I just wanted to like have them all have as much of it fresh in my mind as possible, because I'm really enjoying that there's, whether they're intentional or not, there's just so much connectivity of like story and stuff like that throughout the seasons, and I'm enjoying stuff like that. So yeah, in season 1, Picard, he dreams about Data. They're not as wild as Jack's dreams, but he certainly has like visions. He sees the painting, that Data's painting is Daj, and that and it turns out that he's had this painting and all that. So it kind of like leads him on this adventure. But more importantly, when he gets to the Borg cube, to the artifact, it starts to react to him, and then the Borg kind of start to wake up when he's there, and he starts to see more visions, like horrific visions kind of flash into his head when he's there. And he is Locutus is the receiver, Jack is the transmitter. So it's very interesting that, again, whether intentional or not, it's a nice little retcon connection that I enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely. And I do like an aspect of this episode I really do like is that retcon of Locutus and Picard having that receiver in his brain, and it very much works with First Contact. You have First Contact where Picard is still hearing the Borg. In season 1, he's still hearing the Borg, but they've already said, we've removed all the Borg stuff from Picard. So still having that geneticness in his brain, and that defect, that structural defect, which we've seen throughout the series of Picard itself, talk about and come into the Irumodic syndrome, which killed him, and it was caused by this defect, I think is really cool.
I agree.
Favre, what did you think of we sort of talked about the Borg connection, but did you see the Borg Queen coming? Were you a Par-Wraith supporter?
110% called it as the Borg weeks ago. I think like maybe as early as like episode like 1 or 2. Like as soon as they started doing like weird stuff with Jack, I was like, okay, this has to tie into Locutus, right? I'd love to see like the Paw-Wraiths come back at some point or something. I'm a big Deep Space Nine fan. That's literally my favorite Star Trek show. But yeah, like it does not make any sense. As much as I'm with Worf, I'm like, hey, like the E would have been a cooler ship right now. But as much as like, oh no, it had to be the D to be like the big send off for TNG. It had to be the Borg. Like it wouldn't. You're telling me like the final like big bad that Picard faces off against is going to be the Paw-Wraiths or Gold Dukat, or I heard people mention like Red Jack from the original series from Wolf in the Fold.
Yes,
it's like
Jack
no, like
the
it had.
Ripper.
Yeah, it was gonna have to be the Borg. So it was when he was like mind jacking. I called it like mind jacking when he was like possessing people. When he's going into Sydney. I was like, okay, like it's like it's like wireless assimilation, right? It's like it's gonna be Borg related.
Yeah,
so
about that. That's right.
It was almost kind of frustrating. They drew it out so long, but I'll say this: like the reveal does make sense. It doesn't, it's not like,
out of left field. Yeah.
Yeah, like Synthulu in season 1 was a little out of left field, right? Like I don't know, like season 2 that like I don't know if anyone saw was like, oh, it's just like some weird transwarp conduit that's opened and these Borg are trying to unite the fleet to stop it. Like no one really saw that coming. So like I don't know if those felt like truly like organic reveals that felt natural. This on the other hand did. So as much as it was kind of obvious, at least it does, make sense.
So I think we do kind of need to talk about the Borg from season 2, because I see a lot of discussion in chat about it. Aren't the Borg good now? Why are there 2 Borg queens? In season 2, that Borg queen was from the Confederation timeline. We see that she comes with them to the past. She merges with Jarathi. And then when they go off at the end of season 2, they say, okay, we're not going to mess with the timeline. We're just going to save some people and make our own collective. So the Borg Jarathi collective in season 2 is not the Borg collective. We know this because they didn't affect the timeline. Yeah. Wolf 359 still happened. We, heard of that in this season. It didn't affect 7 of 9. It didn't affect Shaw. So it didn't affect the Borg timeline. They are.
Yeah, it's like they're not the collective. They're a different group. It's like at the end of Star Trek 6, we make peace with the Klingons, right? But then in Star Trek Generations, the Duras sisters are still bad guys. Yes. It's like we have some that we're friends with, and we have some that are assholes. So.
Yeah.
They are
same with the Borg.
The Borg in the Confederate timeline are also destroyed. The Queen is the last Borg. They were about to do a kind of like an execution, and they were saying this is the last Borg. They've already destroyed all the Borg in the Confederate timeline. So
yeah,
the
Picard,
Borg that are
the Borg
on
Slayer.
The Borg that are on Jarati's ship are the soldiers, the missionaries or whatever, not missionaries, sorry, the mercenaries, different career. The mercenaries that were assimilated by Jarathi. Those are
she talks about like the collective she's gonna build of like it's like a voluntary collective. Like if you're an outcast or if you're terminally ill or something, you want to like join her Borg, then you can.
We also have someone asking, oh, so where is Jarathi then? Different timeline? No, she is in this timeline. She's just guarding that transport conduit on the other side of space. There is some talk of the Borg Queen of the actual collective made that transport conduit to steer away and distract them so they wouldn't come and save the day, which does make sense. We do have to then talk about the fact that, Jack goes off, finds this Borg structure. Nick, what were your thoughts of just the Borg appearing quite close to Federation space, it seems?
Man. I hate the thing that I hated about it most is that the whole season everything's red. It's red. It's like meant to like throw you off from thinking that. So I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, and then everything's still red when you get to the Borg thing. But I really wish they would have shown like her face. Is there a reason that they didn't?
I mean,
because Alice Krieger doesn't want she doesn't want like all the prosthetics and stuff
at
this point. I think.
Yeah.
She's also in her 70s, like all these other old people running around.
She's 69, yeah. She's like 68 or 69. She's
70. So it's also probably to tie in the fact that that Borg Queen is probably the face that Vadic was talking to. So when we see her, we'll probably see that she might have like half a face, maybe, because that's kind of what the hand face, the handler, as people call her.
There's
is like.
Yeah, Janeway probably effed them all up. Yeah, Janeway messed them up.
Like she's still in the Unicomplex, I think.
It looks like a Unicomplex. We have some people in chat.
The red nebula, those red orange clouds. That's the same as where she was in Endgame.
The Ready Room clip from next week tells you where it is. So I don't know if you want that spoiled, but we know where that is because we know where that is.
The Ready Room clip does say that.
I didn't.
We don't need to say that, just in case anyone else in
that's
chat
all. Just go see the Ready Room clip. Yeah, exactly.
But that's just where it is. But it does look like the Unicomplex. When Troy opens the door and we see the Borg cube, that's just a representation of the Borg cube in Jack's mind. When we see Jack finally goes to wherever this place is and sees this structure, it doesn't look like a Borg cube. It has some extra additions to it. It has a lot of towers, like network towers on the top. So a lot of people, myself included, have theorized that is like a part of the Unicomplex, which like broke off and made sure it didn't get destroyed in Endgame. Which makes sense.
I love the device, the crazy machine that fires up.
That was so cool. It very much reminded me of
felt very
First
Contact. Yeah. Like the dream in the opening Taurus of First Contact,
look, is very good. So I think
all messed up in there too. I like how everything's messed up. Like there's things that it looks like it's been through stuff. Yeah, there's cables everywhere.
And when me and Sohail watched it earlier, you can see there's still Borg there, and they're just in their regeneration alcoves. So it's not just the Borg Queen herself just chilling there. There are some Borg.
Janeway really effed
it's
up
hard
the
to
Borg.
See. But
it's really dark.
It's really dark.
She really did a number on them.
Yeah,
she really did.
And Borg ship interiors, it makes a lot of sense for it to be really dark, right? Like they've always been pretty dark.
They've always been really dark. Yeah.
I'll still complain about it though.
No worries. So Hill, did you expect going back to the Fleet Museum as a part of this season? Because I think a lot of people did.
Yes, I did expect going back, but the theory or the trending theory that I was kind of latching onto was that they were gonna go on a bunch of different ships, and like it was going to be one fleet against another one. So that's what I had in my mind.
Yes.
So, but then in I always suspected that the D was somewhere, or the saucer. That's what I thought, like that the saucer would be in Hangar 12 or whatever. I did not expect that Geordi restored her using parts from the Syracuse and other Galaxy class ships that may have been destroyed. It's kind of a cool thing that she's a Frankenstein ship.
Well, it's an old idea.
Like, it's like,
it's a very old idea. I don't know if people
Yorktown,
know
right?
this,
Yeah.
but originally the idea for season 6 to season 7, the cliffhanger they were going to do instead of what was it, the descent, right, with the Borg and lore.
With
but the
Law's
original
world.
idea was going to have the Duras sisters destroy the Enterprise D, and the saucer have to crash land on a planet, like what ended up happening in Generations. Originally that was going to happen on the show, and then the fix to reset everything, to hit the reset button and do the actual final season of the show, is they're just going to be like, oh, well, here, you get another star drive section from another Galaxy class ship, and you just put your saucer on it. So that idea that they came up with back in the early 90s now was finally fully realized.
One thing I do really like about the model is you can see the different coloration between the saucer section and the star drive section. So you can really tell that, the saucer section has been through more than the Syracuse. Is the star drive section also the Syracuse, or is it just the nacelles which are the Syracuse?
I just
think
assumed the entire star drive is the Syracuse.
Because they say engines and nacelles.
Yeah, but I think he just meant like that half of the ship is the Syracuse.
Which makes sense. So yeah, I do really like that. We obviously, with the ending title sequence that we've had in season 3, this new title sequence, there's been a lot of foreshadowing about what happens. There's a Klingon cloaking device. You see the brain scan. You even see the
receiver protein,
codes, the receiver protein in this, and the transmitter. We do see a scene of is it Probert Station, the new Earth space dock? I think that's what it's called.
Oh, they named a station after him.
Oh, interesting.
That's unfortunate.
Depending
on how you feel about Andy Probert.
Can it just be called?
I'm not a fan, but
can it just be called ESD, Earth Space Dock?
You can call it ESD, yeah. But you see all of the legacy ships orbiting it. You see a Galaxy class, a Constitution class, an Intrepid class, a Defiant class. So, are we going to have other people go to the Fleet Museum and collect the other ships like we did predict? Is there enough time for that?
Happen. That's a cool idea.
Do you want to get into predictions, Dom? Or
I mean,
are we going to do some predictions? I have a few.
Yes,
but I mean,
43 minutes
I'm just spitting this out there, but 7 of 9 is friends with the entire Voyager crew. Worf is friends with the entire DS9 crew. So the doors are open. They can bring anyone back they could have Harry and Chakotay and Kira and O'Brien and Bashir and Neelix.
Closet where he's been held. He beat the changeling.
No. Tim Russ will be back. He said he's
I'm
doing
100% sure.
So yeah.
So I'm 100% sure that Janeway probably has like one of those Fenris Ranger direct connections to 7, and she was like, Tuvok's been taken, you got to do something, and so maybe Janeway is working behind the scenes to do it.
Yeah, but the whole point of that scene was they can't contact Janeway, so that would be weird if they did that.
Well, that there were that's true. Good point.
I don't think Janeway is going to have anything. I don't think we're going to see Kate Mulgrew next week.
No,
I believe them when they say that.
We do have Chuck A saying that Morn saves the day, so he is part of the DS9 crew.
He's gonna be part of when the Enterprise D arrives at Earth and they see like everyone's already taken care of the Borg and defeated them. It'll be Fleet Admiral Harry Kilm in command, and then Jellicoe will be like, okay, I think we got them all, sir. He'll be like right next to Harry Kilm, and then you have Morn and O'Brien, and then O'Brien will be like, well, we're all done here. I guess we're gonna go shoot some darts at Quarks.
We do take his eternal
one.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Quark's come up since season 1, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Quark have involvement.
That would be
You know,
good.
that would be payback for his cameo he was supposed to have at the end of Star Trek Insurrection that they cut out.
Oh yeah.
That-
Him
And
just
it
chilling on that
occurred to me
planet.
this is like a random piece of trivia that just like occurred to me the other day, but it made me think like, there's never been a Ferengi in a Star Trek movie. Out of all 13 movies, they've never had Ferengi in any of them. The one time they tried to put
Yeah,
Ferengi in a
true.
movie, it got cut out.
Got cut.
So
Okay, we do have Cake is Eternally in chat saying the Lass Arena is not connected and available, but they've just left her around the sun. So I
Yeah,
doubt
what's up with
she'll-
that?
Yeah. Talking of ships,
Poor La Serena.
Nick, as I know you play a lot of Star Trek Online, or at least more than us. What did you think of the Odyssey class appearing in this class? Obviously, it's been hinted throughout the season, but it finally appeared in person? Question, quote unquote.
Which one is that? Sorry,
Enterprise F.
Literally, there are
The Enterprise
so many
F.
ships. My brain cannot. The F.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
yeah,
The F, the
Shelby's
new-
ship.
Shelby ship.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those in the game yet, but I would like to.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. I don't think anyone's a fan of the Odyssey class. I've never
What?
heard it,
No.
especially like
Jack-
out of
no.
the Trek Central
Jack.
people.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I've never
It's
heard
a
anyone
bit.
affiliated with Trek Central ever say a positive word about the Odyssey class. Like I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
I think Jack really
no one
hates
likes it.
an Odyssey class.
I'm sure. I can see. He seems like a Enterprise F hater.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely doesn't like
That's
the Enterprise
Jack's
F.
favorite ship. I think he. Do we know? Did he go nuts? Did he lose his stuff? Did he lose his like cool when he?
Well,
saw it?
I
Was he,
mean, the
like-
thing is, we kind of knew it was happening, so I mean, yeah, you kind of. It's cool, it's
I
there,
wanna
but
see
also
Jack-
it's been.
I want to see the video of Jack with
Signpost there,
tears
but-
coming out of his eyes.
Yeah.
But I do feel sad that they're probably going to destroy the Enterprise F, Jack. There's a. I said I
The
would
D
say
is
it.
gonna crush the F.
The D is gonna.
The
crush
the D is gonna F up the F.
Yeah. Very much. We have
Just
Chuck
demolish
A
it.
also saying they said on the Ready Room that Shelby may not be dead. She
Yeah,
got
they
shot
did hint at
twice,
that. That's true.
but
What do you mean? Not dead? Come on.
okay. We have Sean
Nick's not
Kisi,
having it, I
another
love it.
super
I
chat.
no.
So thank
she
you very
got
much.
shot point blank. Absolutely.
We have another super chat from Sean Kisi, so thank you very much.
Thank you,
for
Sean.
£5 saying Geordie said D was last operational ship not connected, therefore other museum ships are not. I reckon D will face off against
Oh, he
F.
did say that. That's
Finally,
right. Good point.
Shaw lives. So Shaw also isn't dead. Yay.
I think Shaw's dead. I think Shaw is
yeah.
R.I.P.
Yes. But I think everyone's being quite hyperbolic in this in this penultimate episode. You know, we see the fleet, the whole fleet of Starfleet. That's less ships than were in the Dominion War in one of the fleets. So that's definitely not all the ships in Starfleet.
Yeah.
That's probably all the
Well,
ships
they could have
the
a smaller
changelings
fleet
changed.
these days.
Yeah, but also it's less ship. It's probably about the same ships as the fleet in season 1, which was all made of one class. Well, 4
That's a good
classes
point.
if you want to be picky, but you know.
Where are all of the Protostar class ships and the Parliament class
Yeah,
ships
and
and the
where's
California
my
class
California
ships?
class
California
ships?
classes. Yeah.
So
I wanted.
obviously,
I was looking for
this
them.
isn't
I was actually
the
looking
whole
for them.
fleet. This is probably the whole
Right,
home
yeah.
fleet or the first fleet or whatever.
The first fleet. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
We have another super chat from Xander Creates for $4.99. Thank you very much. Saying the D is better than the F, and I will fight you. Name a place and time. Phasers.
Wow.
I will
at
agree with you.
noon. We'll
Dang.
take 30 paces and
Hey,
phaser
guys.
each other.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
every ship's pretty. Every ship's pretty.
Yes.
Come on, all ships are pretty. Come on,
Oh
come
God.
on. We don't have to get into fights.
Apart from
But wow, I've never seen that side
the
of Dom.
Springfield
That's
class.
scary.
The Springfield class. No. The is it the Yeager class, which is an Intrepid and a Marquis Ranger had a kid?
Oh,
That- It's not good. No. Yeah.
that's the best ship design ever.
Yeah, it's just an Intrepid saucer on the hull of a Marquis Raider, because those ships are the same size. Yes, we have Veritas saying we need the Vesta class to be canon. Yes, very much. That's
Which
the
one was the
USS
Vestal class?
Aventine from the comics. And it's
Oh
also in
yes,
Star Trek
that is a
Online.
beautiful ship too.
But that's a
Yeah,
beautiful
it's true.
ship. And yeah, we have the Pathfinder. We have a couple of Pathfinders in this fleet, which is what the Voyager B is. So that's also from Star Trek Online.
I love the Pathfinder. Yeah, that's a
yes.
great design. I like it's like if the Intrepid class was like closer to what I like, because the Intrepid class never quite did it for me. But I like it, that slightly more advanced kind of like post first contact style that the Pathfinder has. Same as the Ross class is another beautiful ship that we saw in this fleet. Like
Yes.
I was never been a fan of the Galaxy class. I'm sorry, just like never liked it.
Yeah.
But the Ross to me is like, oh, it's like if the Galaxy was closer to what I want it to be.
Yeah, very much. So I guess, is there any other aspect of this episode that we haven't talked about?
I do want to point out that
Yeah.
I really liked. I like the way they wrote it all. Like I do like that Counselor. In terms of like the reason I like it is because what it was evocative of me is that actually the Boomers don't know what they're doing. You know, they're like Jean-Luc should never have been alone with Jack. Like Counselor Troy should never have left him
yes.
locked. Locked
They
in.
kind of caused
in
Jack
there.
to go.
Yeah, they kind of
yeah.
triggered that. But my favorite thing about that whole sequence was Dr. I don't think we talked about it, but Dr. Crusher, like Gates McFadden, when she runs like up to Jack and she doesn't care. Like those soldiers pulled guns on her and she just walks right. She tries to get through them, and it was just a very powerful scene that nicely showed the difference between Jean-Luc and Beverly, and like I thought it illustrated very well like the differences in their styles.
I also found
and
a lot
dug
of
that kind of stuff.
the use of characters in this episode to be weird, because you have Geordi giving a explanation on Borg stuff, which you have Seven. Seven hasn't done that much this season, so why not Seven?
Yeah, they really should have had Seven
Geordi
there. Yeah,
talking about, oh yeah, we found something in your DNA. You have a doctor who's right there. Geordi's just doing a lot of this exposition stuff, which great for him. I love Geordi, but you know, there are other characters which can work better. There's also Raffi only appears near the end, just in the maintenance deck, and is like, "Oh yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah, I'm going to stay with Seven." I like that she stayed with Seven, and they're together now because they've had like no scenes together, even though you know they had a relationship.
Yeah, like a little moment, yeah. But not
so
satisfying.
we'll see what happens in the next episode now that those two are on the Titan. So yeah,
all the
there's a
humor
lot of
worked
stuff.
really well.
All the humor, I will say humor worked in this episode.
The levity,
Oh, yeah.
as Jonathan Frakes described it, bringing that back in and like mixing it with the kind of tenseness or to break up the tenseness a little is done really well, I thought.
Yeah, and definitely like Brent Spiner being more Brent Spiner with Data now that he's more emotional, more in touch with his human side is great. Oh yeah, be more positive. I hope we. And just that smirk is very Brent, and bringing that into Data is great. We have another super chat from Sledge GE2 for $5, who said, "I like Enterprise F. It's nice transitional design from the Enterprise E." So we have another F fan here, even if Jack hates the F. So yeah, and Hello Chair, like you said, was a great little scene. I think there was some other nice. With Worf destroying the Enterprise E, seemingly, or at least making it
or at least putting it out of
non-repairable.
commission.
Yes.
Yeah. Non-repairable.
No, we still don't know
fun.
if he was ever captain of it or not. But
It seems
to me like
the
that
intention
suggests that that's
but they
the
don't want to
intention.
confirm it.
Not confirmed. So it's up like if they want to tell a Star Trek novel story where Worf is the captain, or they can do that, or if he just has to be there with the destruction of the E.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet from Terry Metalis that said the reason they left it like that was intentionally so that someone could write a book or something about it. Because pretty cool.
We do need to talk about somewhat of the legacy characters. We have Cakes Eternal saying Sean Farrick was worried about Muriel Paris, Tom Paris and Balana's child, who presumably is in Starfleet and probably assimilated at this point. We have Eleanor, like we said, which kind of is the ward of Picard. You have Kestra, who wasn't mentioned but is seemingly at Starfleet Academy, according to some comments, but not mentioned because Troy only says, "Oh yeah, our family includes Elandra, Sydney, and Jack," and just cuts it off there, not even mentioning her own child, Kestra.
I think the Trek explanation comes from why they're attacking Space Dock. I think that the changelings were only able to assimilate transporters on these ships, and so that on Earth and on Space Dock, perhaps there's not as many people who are being transformed into Borg. So the Borg are now like trying to take out Space Dock and Earth's defenses, so they can actually set up a true assimilation factory or whatever that they whatever they do. So this is just step one. So right now only the fleet has been assimilated is my guess.
Yeah,
So I think
and I would
Kestra,
also
if
expect all the changelings who have been manipulating things have made sure that all the ships they have managed to change the transporters of are at Frontier Day. So they're all in one place.
Yeah.
And that makes
sense.
We have another super chat from Raymond Borg, sorry to cut you off, for $2.99, $2.99, not $299, saying, "I missed the carpet," because I don't think you would say I missed a carpet for $299. But for $3, that makes sense. So yes, that was a interesting comment. Because obviously we have the whole Carpetgate situation of, oh, the Titan interiors, they don't have carpet.
I started that. I started that conversation a few months before it really kicked off on Picard season 2, when Prodigy first came out. I was looking at the Protostar. I was like, you know what? I love the interior of the ship, but it's a little weird that like just all the floors are just like this cold metal material. Like there's no carpeting in Starfleet ships anymore. And then by the time like Picard season 2 came out, I was already like bored of that conversation. By the time everyone else caught up to me,
still continuing.
Just pointing that out. Yeah,
that's hilarious that you're the that means you're Dave the Bane and Dave Blass's side, because he loves and hates the carpet. He tweeted today.
But it wasn't the last time that I frustrated that poor man who was extraordinarily nice to me.
Yes,
Dave, we can vouch for Father. He's really awesome. But just so you know, Dave tweeted out today that there was carpet on the view screen on the D, and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yes, there was carpet on the view screen." I want to know where they had the carpet on the view screen.
Interesting.
Which is hilarious.
But yes, we are coming near the end of our hour. Anyone in chat, if you have anything you want us to talk about, any questions about the episode, let us know.
I'm curious to hear if there's other predictions for next week.
And predictions.
I mean, that's the end. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think the saucer is going to separate. That's another prediction I got. We're going to see a saucer separation.
Yep.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think the final shot of the show, it might mirror if people recall. Sohel, I know you do because you just watched it. But the first episode of Picard, it opened with Picard and Data playing poker in the 10 forward bar, and Blue Skies playing. And so I'm wondering if this is going to end with like the TNG cast on the D playing poker.
It would be interesting if in that scene you have the D flying through space, and then it goes into 10 forward and they're playing poker. Yeah. But if it's playing poker, they go out through 10 forward, and then it's the ship flying through space. That would be a nice way to mirror it. They did somewhat mirror it.
And they do the signatures.
Yes, the signatures. I would love signatures.
Like Star Trek 6.
I really want that for these guys too.
But they did sort of mirror the first scene of episode 1 of season 1 in the first episode of season 3. But it was with the Ilios, and instead of Blue Skies, it was I don't want to set the world on fire.
Mm-hmm. This is what Shaw accused Locutus of doing.
Yes.
He's like, your old man was there setting the world on fire.
We also have that Beverly was listening to the Best of Both Worlds log in the first scene. She was listening to the log of Best of Both Worlds in the first scene. Yeah. So it has been set up. Whether it was set up with grace or as a sledgehammer, you can argue. But yes, Lilith Cook says, I wonder if this means they're going to do another movie. Who knows?
Patrick Stewart keeps saying, I mean, hey, like, they've been having a hard time getting this 4th Kelvin movie made. If they just want to do 25th century movies instead of Kelvin movies, I'm all for that. I think that'd be a great idea. Movies.
I think I want to add my prediction is that there will be a poker scene of some sort. I don't think it's going to be like I don't think it's going to try to like top or touch on this or like mimic the iconic one from All Good Things, but there will be a poker scene. My prediction is that the new generation will be invited to come to the table, and that'll be kind of what's special about that'll be my prediction on it.
Oh, what if it ends with like Jack and Sydney and Alondra playing poker?
Like, or joining them, kind of like the lower decks, like how they all played poker, just like the senior officers did.
Without putting you through too much emotional trauma, Nick, who do you think anyone's going to die? Prediction wise.
So Nick gets the question first.
Yeah.
As long as it's
saw some
not
people
Geordi,
okay.
I think I'll be okay.
As long as what?
It's not Geordi.
As long as it's not Geordi. I've already seen Picard die, and that broke my heart. And I was like, I hate you. So yeah, just don't do that to Geordi, and I think I'll make my way through it.
Fabry, do you think
Picard...
anyone? Well, so here since you're talking.
No, sorry, I know.
Going to die?
I just to vibe on Nick though. I do like that in this season, Picard says, "I died." Like it's not like to him he died. Like that's pretty cool. But sorry, Father, you can go next, and I'll wait
Fabry,
my turn.
Do you think anyone's going to die?
I think the big seven are all safe. I think they're all going to survive.
Fair enough. So Hill, now you have to answer.
I don't think we're gonna lose anyone in the Big Seven. I can't even imagine who it would be. But I've always said this: if there is one person that I could kind of like be okay with, it'd be Worf, just because it's his thing. Like he's all
be a happy ending.
It'd be a happy ending. It would actually be a happy ending for him, but I don't want it to happen. I'm not saying I want it to happen.
Stop
I'm just saying that's the only.
Don't put that out in the universe.
I mean, I think he'd be a possible contender. I honestly think that I think Riker it would make sense. I think Troy it would also make sense. I could even see them like killing Crusher.
This is traumatizing.
Are they gonna have to kill Jack? Like he's what, a Borg?
I mean, they might
now,
but
I don't know.
They may
I
have
presume it's more going to be they're gonna save Jack rather than kill Jack.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because that would
You know
be
what would be cooler is if like Jack. What if Jack is like the answer? What if like Jack actually is the hero of the day?
Yeah,
and it's like, we didn't need the old people after all. And then like it ends with like, hey, y'all can go and retire and live happily ever after. We got this covered.
Also, we talked a little bit about how the messaging of this story at the moment isn't the best, and I think if all the old people have to kill Jack because he's spreading the woke virus to all the under 25s. That's not that good a message. That they have to kill.
He can become the woke Jesus though, and like create a religion. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's gonna be that at all. I hope.
We do have Raymond Verata saying, "Who's the alien in Vadic's hand?" Borg Queen. That makes sense.
How do we know though?
Well, we'll see next week, but it would be very weird if
that's who she was working for,
because we know they were working for the Borg, and it would be kind of weird if she wasn't.
Remember when she's talking to Jack, she says Vadic saw what I see. Like she mentions
and
Vadic.
the Borg Queen mentions Vadic, and Vadic says to Seven, "Oh, it's great that you'll see where we're heading.
You're here to witness."
Because they're probably going to head to the Union Complex. So
and a lot of the conversations, like when the scary face is yelling at Vadic, like you're kind, you're made to be molded, and you're just shaped into whatever you need to be. So you're kind of like without purpose. You're not anything because you can become anything. So like you're kind of nothing. That sounded like something like the Borg Queen would say to a changeling.
Yeah. So I have ended the poll as we are ending the stream. And the favorite part of this episode with the Trek Central live chat with 77% is the big D, the Enterprise D returning.
Yes!
Here we go.
People love the D.
Yes, Trek fans do love the D. It's true. 10% of our viewers liked Vox, the voice of the Borg, which I might say that as well. 6% is the illustrious F. I would have hoped that would be higher because the F is beautiful. Odyssey Class is really nice ship, so That's a shame. And then Shelby returns 5% because she may have returned, but then she seemingly died. The end. But yes, I think that is where we will wrap up this stream. Next week we have episode 10, which is called The Last Generation. Ooh, is everyone going to die? Wow. And yeah.
Dom, this is our first series finale since Star Trek's come back. This is the first series
since Enterprise.
Since Enterprise.
Well, does the short treks count as a TV show?
But they didn't.
I don't count.
They didn't do a finale though. They just kind of stopped.
They just stopped.
I don't think
they weren't cancelled and they weren't stopped. So
yeah,
I don't count it. But yeah, this is our first series finale of
Enterprise.
New Trek. Which
and then in about a year, we're gonna have another one with Discovery.
It's nuts.
Coming to an end,
a lot of feels coming up in the next year as well.
So we'll see where the Star Trek universe is heading with Picard, and then Discovery ending. Will we get Star Trek Legacies? We're getting Starfleet Academy. We might get another show. We'll see. So I have to thank all of our people in chat for being here. I think it was 180 of you concurrent viewers, which is very nice. We thank you very much. Thank you all for super chatting, all who did. Very much appreciates you, very much helps the channel. And we will be here next week for The Last Generation to talk about Star Trek Picard ending, the final episode. Where are we going from here? What was the season to this point? And we'll be here talking about that. So join us next week, as we talk about that. But I'll pass this off to our co-hosts, where they can tell you where you can find them, talk to them, whatever, if they want that, who knows. But Favre, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm easy to find. You can follow me on Twitter at TXTrek, and you can also subscribe to the Tex Trek YouTube channel. We do a live show every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central. Right now, we're discussing Picard episodes. So whatever episode comes out Thursday, we have a deep dive discussion on it on Fridays. And then you can also listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts. When Picard wraps, we're going to have other stuff to talk about. And then, of course, we'll be covering the other shows later in the year with Strange New Worlds coming June 15th. And then, our animateds later in the year with Lower Decks and Prodigy. So we'll be covering all of that.
Yes, very nice. And Nick, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/piece by piece, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Very nice. And Sohail, where can people find you?
Well, I'm going to be on Twitch soon because I'm going to resurrect my Twitch so that I can watch Nick. So that's cool. So I'm going to totally do that. So you can find me on everything as Starfleet Sohail or Starfleet Boy in some places because they don't let you change your name. But yeah, so Starfleet Sohail, especially on YouTube. I'm also hopping around on various different podcasts on YouTube, so you can kind of catch me randomly here and there. And I'm here every Sunday, and I love coming here, by the way. It's awesome.
And it's lovely to talk with all of you about the latest Star Trek episodes. I think I'm Commander. Am I Commander? Who knows? Dom Paris at Trek Central. I write a bunch of the videos here. You can also find me on Twitter at DomDParis, where I mostly post random stuff. So follow me if you dare. But yes, thank you all for being here. And I guess that is it. So as always, live long and prosper.